I want to talk to you about secret influence. There's a power, and when I say this, a lot of you viewing, if you come from Christian circles, when I say power, when I say influence, your brain is already wanting to shut down because you've been taught that's bad. Jesus was a person of power, a person of influence, and brought change regardless of what path of life you were on. The tax collector, the owner of ships, which was Peter. Understand, I've done all the research. Peter didn't drive a little dinghy with 2 oars and throw out a little dip net. It was an enterprise. It fed a community, just like today, right? If you would go into Greece, you'd see the fishermen out there. They can't catch one fish. They got to catch a boatload to supply the need. Does that make sense? Nothing's changed in thousands of years. People still eat, right? So let's transition the way we think when we read the Bible. Let's transition what we receive in the church settings because you know what? We minimize it and make it too small. The tax collector wasn't going out collecting a penny. He was taking houses, palaces, farms, ranches, ships, storefronts for payment of taxes. If I read my Bible correctly, even the Sanhedrin met with the local government, which was the Sanhedrin, that was the council of the church that was affiliated with the government. Governments back in that day didn't sit around going, I wonder what we're going to do. We got a little wagon. They were just as involved as we are today. They just didn't have the internet. They had scribes that wrote everything and took it to the communities. Does that make sense? So managing a people didn't just start in the last 20 years. It's been around since man's been on the planet. And some of governing man has been around since men have been on the planet. Does that make sense? So with that, let us open the way we think and let us start to understand God is about influence and He wants you to get in position where He can give you influence. Right? Starts in several areas. One is influence over yourself. And if you fail miserably there, you're not going to make somebody else a disciple. Disciple yourself. Okay? So influence yourself, and as you've influenced yourself and get on a good path, a good career path, and start changing your life and lifestyle, now you might qualify to teach someone else a few things. If you haven't learned yet, don't teach anybody anything. Become your own student. Okay? It's always amazing to me, people that live in a shipwreck want to teach other people. It's like, that's amazing to me. People that wreck their own marriage want to teach people how to build one. It's like, are you kidding me? All right? If you're learning to fly, don't learn from a pilot that crashes all the time. Okay? Does that make sense? You want to learn how to ride a street bike? Don't take lessons from somebody that's, walking with a cast because he crashed his last week. Wrong teacher. I know it's hilarious, but sometimes you have to make it, preschool for people. Watch this. Jesus understood human behavior, and that's the point of influence. Influence is understanding human behavior. Human behavior has a template to it. If you recognize the template, you'll be able to help the individual. Let's take it in context of the workplace. If you understand the behavior of an individual, you can give them the necessity or the necessary tools to change that behavior. Proper supervision, being a supervisor, is giving people the necessary tools to change behavior patterns so they are a success as a career person and bring success to the company. Does that make sense? So when you see continued behavior patterns, the person doesn't show up on time. That's why they invented a pink slip. A supervisor has to enforce a bit of punishment, if you will, harshness, to help change the person's behavior. You don't want to know how to make a supervisor happy? Do what they ask you to do and show up on time. And stay late. Those 3 things, you'll get promoted. But in our culture here on the West Coast, we want to fight with our supervisor because we hate authority, because all of society's telling you authority, you shouldn't listen to it. right? Second, we don't like it because they are paid more than we are. We want to make more than them, and then we want to use their head as the ladder or the rung on the ladder so we can step to a higher promotion. So we're undermining the leadership that is right above us. We're trying to take their seat of authority out from underneath them, and we want to give them less than par level work ethic. Then we cry when we don't get the promotion. To me, that's crazy. But watch. If we're going to understand secret insight and how influence works, we can see this in the life of Jesus. Okay? Watch this. Jesus understood human behavior. His teachings gives a clue into how the mind of man works. Behavior is connected to our inner thoughts, desires, pleasures, and arguments. Behavior. Understanding behavior gives you the how and the why a person conducts themselves in a certain way. And it is the primary key to helping them achieve greater benefit or reward in life. It is. Here's the key. When you're training people, when you're working with people, when you get to a point where people look to you, you have to be very careful where you spend your time. Because when they don't see a benefit of it, when they don't see the reward of doing the work, guess what? You limit your involvement. Your time is too valuable. Don't waste it. Some different business models out there require of you, if you're involved, to glean from the leadership above you. When you don't do the time and put in the time, guess what? You don't get their dime. You don't get any involvement from them. You're not going to get the diamond from them. There's a parable Jesus talked about putting gems or pearls before pigs. I can't wait till I get to preach that message. I'll probably have to be in Europe when I preach it. But that's all right, and teach it. Hard reality is this. For too long, you have put pearls in front of pigs. What's a pig? A person that does not realize the value of what's given to them, nor do they value it, and all they want to do is trample on it. They waste it. They waste it. That's what Jesus was showing in that example. He was saying, what I give you is of such great value. Be careful whom you give it to, how you share it, how you articulate it, because not everybody will value it. Does that make sense? Okay? Now, let me give you some more. Is this good so far? I know it's been firm. Watch this. Jesus said this, recognize and not condemn or judge. Recognize, but he did not say condemn or judge. Let's look at the verse. Matthew 7, verse 16. You shall recognize them. Did he say condemn them? Did he say judge them? Think better of yourself than you think of them? Lord over them because you know the keys to the kingdom? Lord over them because you got the 50,000 keys to faith? Lord over them because you know the mark of the beast and who the Antichrist is going to be? All this rubbish? Lord over them because I know when Jesus is returning? It's not what he said. He said, you will recognize them by their fruits. The word fruit here, we often see it in certain contexts and with the sowing and reaping. But let's go a little different path or angle. Fruit here, he's talking to some farmers. They understood bringing produce to market, right, in that region. So he's using things that are familiar to them. Fruit is equal to behavior and output. So it'd be just as equal to say, recognize them by their behavioral patterns. You will recognize them by their fruits. Then he asked this great question. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Most of the time when we hear this taught, we go through a half hour of how to be a farmer. I don't believe that's what God wanted for everybody. Right? What is he saying? Once behavior is in the heart of man, if you look at the output of their life, it will show you what sort of personality they are, how they function, and what they value. Grapes. Does that make sense? Certain behaviors produce certain types of, Jesus used it metaphor, fruit. Then he's saying, okay, this type of behavior, this type of output, this type of expression, these are other words that could be put in there for grape. These type of expressions or behaviors, activities, watch. The good ones aren't among thistles, thorns, ouch factors, chaos, hurtful people hurt people. Does that make sense? So what are we saying? These type of behaviors, the output of these type of behaviors is everything but good. No wonder there's so much pain coming from this individual. It's because their behavior pattern, this is the only thing they know to do. So they repeat the cycle in their life of behavior over and over and over because they're not willing to grow in the area of their personality. You ever been around somebody, their personality is just always harsh towards other people, critical of others all the time? It's because that person lives in fear, and that person literally, in living in fear, is intimidated, and the only weapon or resource they've learned to use is being critical and judgmental of others to self-promote. Does that make sense? But the golden rule in that scenario is when you promote others around you, when you help others become more effective, when you help others receive greater reward and achievement, you naturally go up with them. They don't understand that. Does that make sense? He goes on to say, or figs from thistles. Now, too many people try to make these things too spiritual. Let me put it to you like this. True spirit has attached with it great change and great reward. If it's just spiritual and nothing comes out of it, it's not spiritual. It's not. It's googly garb. It's Christianese. It's people that are pseudo-spiritual. Now, Jesus was very spiritual, but Jesus had a lot of fruit. He wasn't fruity. When I sit with you and you want to share me a revelation and you don't even understand it yourself, and it makes no sense in this earthly world, it's not a revelation. It's twisted up thoughts in you. But you make it spiritual because you know how to make it sound spiritual because other people around you accept it. And it elevates you to a place in that peer group as being somebody that knows something on the inside. That's not true spirituality. True spirituality is you get insight that brings change in your life, which helps you change people, others' lives, if you will, and certainly your community. Does that make sense? But I know the mark of the beast. So do I, 666. Now what? You want a Girl Scout cookie? I'll send you some. I know I'm sounding facetious, but this is the tiddlywinks we play that we need to change in our heart. And this nonsense needs to change in this church. This nonsense needs to change in this ministry and the people that view into this ministry. It's unacceptable to me. When I sit with people, they go, I've got a revelation. God told me that. No, He didn't tell you that. You know why I know God didn't tell you that? Number one, it's contrary to His word. Number two, it didn't bring any insight. Just more darkness, more shadows, more shadowed speech. That was not revelatory. It was laboratory. Let me move on. Man, I love this type of teaching. It changed my life. Watch this. Jesus says, verse 17, so every healthy tree, look at that. Every healthy tree. Every healthy tree. That word tree there, again, this is metamorphic speaking and speech from Jesus. It's a parable being taught. You could put, instead of tree, you could put person, you could put company, you could put executive. It's still relevant. There you go, changing the Word of God. I'm changing it, so hopefully you will. Does that make sense now? Because most of us aren't fruit trees. We're a person. We work in an enterprise. We're an executive. Maybe you're a supervisor. Maybe you're a manager. Maybe you're a board member of a company. Maybe you're entry level. Maybe you're in a startup. Maybe you're an employee. It's all relevant when you're a person, right? As a person, he's saying you can be fruitful. As a person, you can be a person that succeeds and achieves. Moving on. Every healthy tree bears good fruit, has good output, good reward attached. But the diseased tree bears bad fruit. The bad behavior in a person will always produce bad outcomes, bad events. Always. Always. Does that make sense? So notice he talked about two types of tree here. A good tree or a good person, right? Good behavior in a person. And the same with bad. That's all it is. He's not condemning the tree to death. He's drawn an analogy. One bears fruit, one doesn't. One person has great output, right? That's valued and valuable. The other one doesn't. Let me tell you, if you own a company or if you're a manager in a company and you have an employee that's always creating bad events, get rid of them. Help them experience an unemployment check. Because really in their mind, that's what they want. Easy street and somebody else to pay for it. That's not an asset to your company. It's an expense to your company. So before they create greater problems, get rid of them. It's real simple. Verse 19. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Again, metaphorically speaking of farming, this is true. When you find a tree, what do? Well, you either sell it for firewood or you just light it on fire. And they do that a couple of days a week in the valley here. Right? They trim trees, take all the trimmings, and they burn it. Becomes ash. Right? So, right here it's saying, this individual with bad behavior patterns, when given time to change and they choose not to, have solidified the event that will take place in their life, which is being dispatched from your company. Some want to call that being fired. Who created the event? Not the supervisor, not the company, the employee. Through bad behavior, they determined their outcome. They got their reward. Okay, moving on. Verse 20. Thus you'll recognize them by their fruits. Thus you will recognize people by their activity, their behavior. Does that make sense? All right. Now, can I help you? Now we're going to start talking some business stuff. Finally. Look at this. Thus you. See where it says you? The high level, the person that is enterprise-minded, executive-minded people, supervising type, managerial type mind, there's more demand for than entry level. There's more demand for than entry level positions. The reason being is they have a different viewpoint. They have a different objective. See, anyone can get an entry level position in some company. McDonald's is hiring all the time. But for you to become a franchise owner of McDonald's, that's a different mentality. Is that right? Okay. See, Budget Rent-A-Car hires people to wash cars all the time. But Budget Rent-A-Car is going to do a different type of appraisal if you want to become a franchise owner of Budget or Avis or Enterprise. Totally different. They're going to look at your background. They're going to see if you're a lawbreaker. They're going to do a criminal background. Next, they're going to look at a credit worthiness, a credit background. Next, they're going to ask you to provide to them an asset sheet. Next, they're going to interview people you've done business with. Who are your vendors? And when everything keeps coming back about you as bad, 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 no, 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 rip off, rip off, rip off, user, 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 guess what? You will never receive the benefit of being a franchise owner. That's reserved for people that are higher level. Now, they didn't determine your level. Who determined your level? Who determined your behavior? Who determined the past events that says who you are? Very good. We did. Right? Now, the past can be changed. How do you change the past so that your report about you is better? By changing your behavior. You know, a lot of people want quick results, but they don't want to do the difficult, which is long-term good behavior, and over time, benefit comes. They all want to pull the lottery. I do too. It's in our human nature. I'd love to hit Powerball. Come on, baby. But the question is, 5 years later, do I still have Powerball left over? Right? Somebody watching went, yeah, Powerball. I was thinking 8-ball. Yeah, I bet you were. Watch. 3 principles of influence. 3 principles of influence. Reciprocity. Reciprocity is very powerful. So when we talk about influence, being able to be influential, being able to influence a group, being able to influence an individual, being able to influence an industry or an enterprise, these things you'll see as a thread across all of those. Number one, being a person of influence is not bad, because a person of influence understands the law of reciprocity. Have you ever heard, do unto others as you would like be done to you? Have you ever heard, what a man sows, that shall he also reap? Right? Well, this is reciprocity. It's returning favors or paybacks of debt. Right? So in how we treat an individual, we get a payback of that debt based on how we treated them. Does that make sense? So the principle of influence is understanding influence, and as you influence an individual, guess what your payback's going to be? Something good, something worthwhile. Does that make sense? So as you help the individual, what do you think your future will have in it? Someone helping you. So how do we do this in business? It's real simple. You see it today. Free gift, a giveaway, right? There's a guy that I see on the internet. If you like him, you chime in, you give him a good insight, he sends you an iPhone. What a great gratuity. But there's more going on than the free gift. Now that's not wrong. That's part of the law of reciprocity. Right? When you put a seed in the ground, guess what? It just sits there. No, there's things going on. We know that we don't understand everything going on under the soil because we can't see it. But it does not negate something is happening. When you, as you have, many of you, do things to help others, and that law of reciprocity goes into effect, you don't see it working every day. You don't see the harvest of it every day. You don't see it coming back to you every day, but that does not negate that it's working. It's materializing in your future. It will be there when you need it. Does that make sense? You could say it's money in the bank. It's unrealized credit. Does that make sense? So watch this. A free gift, a giveaway. People want to give to a charity, to a company, if they receive something from them for free. A free subscription. What happens when all of a sudden the subscription runs out? People are willing to pay for the app now. See, that free moment of time, that free term of time, the end reward is people see the value of that app and want to pay for it, become a subscriber. Can I tell you what? There's a lot goes on beyond and below the surface, subterranean. See, watch. When there's reciprocity, you start to influence the behavior, future behavior pattern of that individual. How? a seed went in, a gratuity went in, and something inside of a person, human behavior across all circles says, I was given something free. They thought enough of me to help me. Something was, they benefited me. Therefore, my heart feels attached to connect with them. That makes sense? Come on now. How does this work? It's real simple. Buy a lady a flower, then ask her name. What's she going to say? My name's Betty Sue? No, she's going to say, my name is. Right? What happens? Have you ever bought somebody coffee? That was a place where we say yes. Okay, watch. You buy somebody a cup of tea, right? You buy somebody a coffee, and you don't know who they are. All of a sudden, it's ready for them. They're shocked. And guess what? They enjoy it. Then they want to know. Something in their human anatomy, their mind starts to say, I wonder who bought this for me. If you're in sales, you just should sit in the corner of a coffee shop and buy people stuff. Talk about a lead system. Who bought this? Oh, that guy over there. That guy, wear something, lady, that lady over there. Wear something that catches their attention. Wear a brand they like. Oh, that person over there, she's carrying that purse. Oh, yeah, she's got that Michael Kors. Oh, yeah, he's got that red necktie. What is it? A signet that separates you from the rest. There needs to be a message taught to all of us about dressing for success. That revelation didn't die in the 80s. It's still prevalent today. Does that make sense? Watch this. So this attachment is subterranean in the human behavior. It exists. Now watch. It doesn't have an attachment to any creed of people, any nationality of people, any religious or organization. It is in all human being. We love to receive something we didn't pay for. Right? So in business, we figure this out, that as I sow, as I give and make a giveaway, automatically I'm going to receive back in turn a customer, a client. Right? A paying unit is another word they call it. Put this in your notes. Look at this one. Helping colleagues with a project. Just offering your help and your wisdom, your expertise on their project, with no intent immediately of them remunerating you. Reciprocity kicks in. Now they want to help you on your future project. When you get in a pinch in running your numbers, looking at the plans. Engineers do this all the time with one another. Right? And the outcome is this. Now, when you have a problem, they feel obligated. Does that make sense? There's an obligation to help you. Next, watch. Offer free advice to a startup company. A fresh entrepreneur. And then favor will be returned to you. Right? Put this in your notes. Reciprocity is a law that works on all levels of careers, all paths of life. It's simply paying it forward. Ancient manuscripts that we're all privy to says like this: seed time, harvest time. Right? But it's paying it forward. You want to be a success in your future? Help others be successful. Oh, no, I've got to protect my trade secrets. Great. Keep them a secret, and you'll be a secret in the future. Nobody will even know who you are. Here's another rule. If I'm good and witty ideas and understanding and jingles and insightful ideas for business, ideas for startups, guess what? You give one away, it makes room for 10 more in your heart and in your mind. I learned that a long time ago. I have a file, I just keep putting them in. And whenever I give one away, it makes space for 10 more. I'll probably be 90 years old still helping people launch a business. I can't wait to be around more people in startup hubs that their energy is creativity. They feed on it. New ideas. Their stimuli is innovation. Person like me in there, that's like a match with gunpowder. We're going to make something happen. I remember training a lot of sales reps in our industry, and I'd get around those that were forethinkers, forethought. They weren't just happy with the way things were today and just getting by. They weren't happy with having 3 clients. They wanted to be, the advisor for the entire region. And when I would sit in front of them, when we get to talk and sharing some ideas, before you know it, we're launching product. We've got different services we can bring to them, and we'd find a way how we're going to get it there. Now, what I have found over my career, those kind of people, to huddle them up, are getting far and few in between in this region. Hear me right now. Sometimes you need to keep your head out of your region. That's what I like about flying, because when I'm on radar and I'm talking with somebody out of maybe San Francisco or LA, they're looking at a screen in my region. What is it? I've got eyes in the sky. I've got a mentality that's not subject to my locale. They're pointing me in direction based on intel, not based on locale. Right? Does that make sense? Flying yesterday, I loved it. Flew down and back all in the same day to LA to meet with a client, help them. I was thinking, my goodness, this is nice. All I have to be concerned about is watching my numbers and going from this point to that point. Once I'm at that point, then they'll tell me what's going to happen to the next point. And it's great. Talk to 3 or 4 different air traffic controllers, actually 4 or 5, from here to my destination. So you don't have to know everything. You just have to sometimes keep your head out of the clouds of the people you're surrounded by. Well, I just can't take these storms of life. Yeah, guess what? Don't hang out with cloudy people. I told my wife, I was in the shower singing stupid songs this morning. If you guys want to start streaming that, I can, if that will help you. But the reality is this. I was singing stupid jingle songs, and I just went, you know what? It's a sunny day for the Goodmans. You know why? I refuse to allow a cloud overtake my mind. I refuse it. My goodness, you don't even have to be, like a world changer today. You just got to go to the nearest Starbucks and order a triple shot latte. It'll help you. But watch, what you entertain, you get to keep. I refuse to entertain a rainstorm in my head. If so, it solidifies that, guess what? We're going to have a flood in my mind. I'm going to go under. Right? So you determine what flies over your head. You determine what level of altitude your mind will rest in or stay in. And guess what? Sometimes you need intelligence that isn't from your locale, especially in this region. This region is very low in entrepreneurship. This region is very low in innovation. This region is very low in people that are self-starters and implementers. It really is. So sometimes you might need to seed your heart with insight from afar. Moving on. That went over like a lead balloon. Reciprocity is recession-proof for your family or your enterprise. Doing for others as you want them to do unto you has no law that can overtake that rule of operation. What about the recession? I'm asked every day of my life, what about the economy? My goodness, the stock market's so high, it's going to collapse. Well, if I listen to Christians, yeah, that's their opinion. That's why I don't listen to them. Here's a qualifying question I always have for them. How much do you have invested in the stock market? Nothing? Okay, then it doesn't worry you anyway. Shouldn't worry you anyway. Right? Because here's the thing. I have a different level of insight. The insight and indicators I pull from, and I listen to the radio, I listen to all the networks, I listen to the market news. You can ask my wife, it's on all the time around me. But I take that information and that data and I've got to process it based on what I see in the market, based on the indicators that I have proven to be faithful over the years. And I'm looking at, we got good 18 months ahead of us. So what do? We structure portfolios accordingly. But what if? Yeah, we have a what if hinge in our portfolio planning as well. If there's something that happens on the horizon that we don't see or that is unchanged, we have ways to capture those earnings so they're not depleted and lost. We have ways just through the algorithms and ways through the engineering that we have today to work with that can shift it to cash in a second. So as soon as I tell these people of that are of low-level thinking, they think, but what if the banks go under? Okay? I guess that's a legitimate concern. What if the ground opens up? So, I mean, you can go all these what-if scenarios. The fact does not come back to and relinquish us from being responsible and using wisdom and implementing. Does that make sense? So you plan for the best. You plan for something that may happen, right? But you've got to have a strategy to move forward that has proven results. Does that make sense? Anything can happen with enterprise. Governmental change. New laws come out, a new product comes industry, a new form of that service, and it may be at a higher level than what you're able to bring to the table right now. But don't stop there. Continue to evolve. Does that make sense? Let me give you the second one. Can we take another 10 minutes? It's still early. Watch this one. Second is commitment. Back to 3 principles of influence. Don't we all want commitment? Don't we all want commitment? Who in the room wants to be in a relationship with no commitment? Wants to have a marriage with no commitment? Children that grow up with no commitment to mom and dad. Anybody? Anybody want to have a business that wants customers that have no commitment to the company? Anybody want to create a brand of product that nobody wants to buy on the shelf because they're not committed to it? Anybody, please. So could it be said that in human behavior, we have this sense of desire for commitment? Is that a fair statement? If it be a fair statement, let's look at this and let's utilize it for the common good of all. Commitment. In the internals of man, their behavior patterns show and reveal this. They like commitment. Something in them wants to be a person that can commit. Many times we just got to create a process that enables them to commit. Right? Whatever your enterprise, make it fit. If it's adapting your form, right? Your contact form, adapt it. If it's a follow-up email that needs to be sent to them and connect them, if it's a package that's got to come in the mail, a box, that's popular right now. Everything comes to you in a box. I'm thinking about sending all my teachings to you in a box, right? My wife showed up to me in a box the other day. No, I'm teasing. Anyways, but watch. Everything's now coming in a box. That just didn't happen in the last month because you guys became privy to it. Our daughter was working on boxes a year and a half ago. She saw it in their space. This is something that's on the horizon. It's a trend coming. Everything's boxed. Right? So maybe sometimes to help people engage with commitment, we've got to tweak our form. We got to tweak how we onboard people. We got to tweak how they connect with our product or service. Does that make sense? So again, there's a deep desire to be or to consent. Does that make sense? It's automatically in the human to consent. They want to find places where they can consent and commit. Right? Watch this. Once we commit, we're inclined to follow through. Do you realize that? Once you give your word, your word is what? Good. It's a bond. So once I give my word, I want to commit to what I stated. I want to commit to the outcome of what we shared and discussed. Right? So if your word is your bond, that makes your name what? Good. Credible. Does that make sense? So as the business owner, you have to be credible. How are you determined by credibility? If you follow through on your commitment. Does that make sense? So if the company's looking at you from that light, why don't you look at your employee from that light? If your commitment's good, your name's good. If your word's good and you keep it and you commit, guess what? Your name is good. So when an employee doesn't perform at this level, you try to help them with this understanding to change their behavior patterns. When they can't, they've got to exit your life. They've got to exit your company. Help them exit. That's part of the responsibility of being a leader. It's a true story. Watch. Inside of in a person, there's this deep desire to commit. It just gets buried over all the inertia of life, of mishap. But it's still there. We have to uncover it and utilize it and help them with it. So put this in your notes. Once we've committed, we're inclined to follow through. So is everyone else. This is why it becomes important, watch this, to get customers or clients to commit on paper. This is why it is essential that they approve the work. That's why you ask them, Mr. Smith, we've discussed a lot of things today, and I want to help you build that future home, but all I need is your approval. All I need is your endorsement of commitment. All I need is you to give me your, John Hancock. Said that one time to a man and he wrote John Hancock. Be careful. Anyways, all I need is you to approve this so we can get started. True story. I had the pain of driving 2 hours to get a new check. Watch. Because of this innate ability that man or humans want to commit, they're asking for you to assert, or they're asking you to glean or pull from them a commitment. They like that. That's why when you send out an email and it says, yes, I want to subscribe, or no, I don't, let me help you right now. If you automatically tick yes for them, most of them are good with it. They just send it on through. But when you give them 5 choices, yes, I want it. Maybe I might want it 2 months from now. Or no, I really don't want it, but I could at the end of my life. You give them too many choices. It's a yes or no proposition. Yes, I want your newsletter. Yes, I want to subscribe. Yes, contact me about your latest products. Automatically check it for them. Subliminally, their heart says, I like it, I'm connected, hit yes. Hit subscribe. Hit accept. When you're face-to-face with them, the same as on your executive summary. Mr. Smith, here's the points we've discussed today. On this executive summary, we can help you with this, we can help you with this, we're going to need you to get us this, this is our fee for this is what you can expect from us and our service in this time frame. Now, I need your approval. I need your acceptance. I need your endorsement. Hand them the pen. Drop it if they don't grab it. Learned that a long time ago. Somebody have an ink pen? Bring me an ink pen. Oh, I have one. Here we go. It's not a big fat one, but it'll do. A lot of times I had to teach executives, give them the pen. They're like, no, it's mine. No. And they're wondering why the client doesn't agree with them. I'm like, give it to them, hand it to them. But what if they don't take it? Drop it. Like, really? Yes. If I do this to you, you grab it. If I say, here, what are you going to do? Take it. So you go, here, Mr. Smith. If you don't reach, you drop it. His lightning fast mind says, I should grab the pen. Help yourself. Let me say, you had to teach people this. Yes. Believe it or not, high level people, even with a master's degree. I looked at one guy, had a master's degree in economics. And I said, do you understand something? If you hang on to this like it's the golden grail, it's the holy grail, and you don't let them have it, guess what? They'll never take it to sign. Hand it to them. And he said, but Mr. Goodman, what if they don't grab it? Drop it! It's like a true story. True story. Here is a man that could articulate a portfolio like probably nobody else in my career. And he couldn't figure out how to get a commitment from someone. See, you can have all the brilliance of the world, but if you don't understand how human behavior works, that brilliance can't serve humanity. It's that simple. Could you take a couple more? Look at this one. So they want to commit, they want to approve the work, because when they approve it, they get the desire, which is your product and service. And next it says, my initials are valuable. My signature is of great value. Does that make sense? Have you ever sit down with somebody and they do this? They have a pen, usually a nice pen, and they go, with their arm. They sign real big, like Donald Trump. That's what I like about him. He's like, why? His name means something to him. And because he knows how valuable it is, he's going to make it mean something to you. Who else do you know has their own steaks? Who else do you know has their own wine? Who else do you know has their own brand of cheese? Who else do you know has their own Fruit of the Looms? Nobody but Donald. Because his name's valuable to him, and because his label and brand is valuable to him, he makes it valuable to everyone else. You can hate the man, but you'll still wear his necktie. Just as the same, your brand's valuable to you. And as it's valuable to you, everything about you will be expressed so it becomes valuable to your customer. Does that make sense? So when you ask your customer, could you approve this for me? You know, Mr. Smith, we can't move forward until I get your approval. Mr. Smith, can I help you with this? I want you involved with this project. You know, Mr. Smith, I said this yesterday, Mr. Smith, I'm not like a lot of stockbrokers you've probably dealt with in the past, or even financial advisors. We're an elite level. What that means is, before I ever involve you in a trade, I will ask for your approval. Really? Well, all the other financial, I just sign up however. I understand we could do that, but I want your involvement because no one knows your portfolio like you. What do you think he did yesterday? No, I want to keep the pen. No. I let him have it. And I went, oh, thank you. Guess what I finished with? You have a very nice signature. It's free to be nice. I can look. My God, that looks like chicken scratch. Have you ever heard that? I've heard it in this community. My God, what school did you go to? I always look at him and smile. Farmersville. It creates entrepreneurs that are successful. No. Right? Compliment them. That's an interesting signature. Interesting didn't say you like it. It's just interesting. That's a work of art. Right? Moving on. So watch. Because inside of every human, there's this ability they want to commit, they want to be involved, they want to be approved of, they want to be accepted. When you ask for their initials, their approval, their endorsement, they automatically connect and commit with you. Does that make sense? Because you valued them. Yeah, let the other guy down the street that is ignorant in his way of thinking, throw them paper. Well, just when you finish signing it, you send it up to me. Like, I love those kind of financial advisors. I eat them for lunch. Matter of fact, those kind of advisors, the money left their platform before they even realize it's gone. And they come over onto our company's platform. Do you hear me? Presentation, presentation, presentation. You may be a startup. Well, don't act like a startup. Act like a well-traded enterprise. Does that make sense? Because how you value yourself is how they will value you. And when you see yourself of value and they value and you ask for their commitment, you ask for their approval, you ask for their endorsement, it is of something of great worth to them to be involved with you. Does that make sense? Next, what's this? Some turn away because they understand how being connected, that means they're committed. Some turn away from it. You have to understand everything in society has told them don't be committed. Don't be committed to your husband. Don't be committed to your wife. Don't be committed to financial well-being. Spend credit on credit cards you don't have the money to pay for. Buy the car you can't afford. Buy the home you can't afford. Don't be committed to nobody. Right? Loosey-goosey is the theme of the day. But that goes contrary to human behavior. Because in human behavior, we like to commit. So understand that. Next, watch this one. When we approve a project or we ask for approval, it adds a sense of value. Never forget that. So what you are is always offering a valued proposition, a sense of value, a sense of value, a sense of value. Let me say it again, a sense of value. Let me ask you, do you want to rip people off? Do you want to steal from them? Do you want to be the next Bernie Madoff? Of course you don't. That's why you add a sense of value. You're a valued proposition. And when you believe that, beyond a shadow of a doubt, when you get convinced of that your product and your service is the best that they can possibly buy in the marketplace, when you are convinced of it, your customer, your consumer, your client will be as well. Then you're operating in a level of excellence. Put this in your notes. Even though social issues are trying to detour us away from long-term commitment, human psychology reveals we thrive when we commit. The psychologists studying behavior right now are telling us this. We thrive when we commit. In religious circles, don't commit to Jesus and see how thriving you are. You'll just survive. Right? Don't commit to mentorship, and guess what? In your time of need, you'll find out if you're just surviving or thriving. Don't commit to change, you'll find out whether you thrive or survive. Something in the human behavior, in the psyche of man, we thrive when we commit. Right? Third, liking. Everybody likes. Say like. Like. Heart, 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 heart. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Right? We are more likely to be influenced by people we like. Do you realize when you don't like somebody, they know it also? Let me say it one more time. When you don't like somebody, they know it also. You don't even have to say anything. It just protrudes out of you. When you don't like them, they don't like you. The two of you don't need to do anything together. Depart each other's presence. That's okay. Plenty of people on the planet. You know, wave at them and move on. It's okay. Watch. But we are influenced by people we like. Likability comes in many forms. Never forget that. Likability comes in many forms. Sometimes you prejudge your likability or how people perceive you. You predetermine how they see you. And sometimes that can be very accurate. Other times, it's not so accurate. That's why you need to poll people that you care about or that care about you. That's why you need to be conscientious. There's a great song for all of us, The Man in the Mirror. Michael Jackson sang it. It's very relevant. When you start to peer into your life from the outside in, when you start looking in the mirror, how do I project myself? What image am I casting? How do people perceive me? How do they receive me? In this category of my life, how am I received? In that category of my life, how am I received? And you start working on how people receive you, then you can grow, change, and reinvent yourself. I know some good-willed people, good-hearted people, people of great character. And this is one of the only things they have failed to do in their career path. And because of it, when there were trend change, they went into the ditch. Everything about them is spot on, principally correct. But because they didn't take the time to reinvent themselves and how people receive them according to the present trend, watch, they're no longer relevant by package. Therefore, their message, that's absolute truth, can't be received. Think about that. You can have the sharpest of automobile, but if on the outward it looks like a Model A, it won't be bought. It will be looked over. Packaging's everything right now with product. It's everything. Understand, if you have a product that is on a shelf, understand how people look at it, what they see. Observe people in the retail aisle. Why are they drawn to a particular brand? Ask them when you're shopping, excuse me, ma'am, I'm just very curious. Hopefully, can I have 5 seconds of your time? Why did you select that brand over that brand? Really? You'd ask them? Hey, let me put it to you like this. If our company's profit line was based on what people think and what they choose between product A and product B, I'm asking that question. Because the profit and well-being of my company is based on that. I'm going to know, why did you choose the one with the red label versus the one with the black label? I want to know, why are you choosing the one that has the flower on it versus the one that doesn't? Or the leaf, or the whatever. Does that make sense? Can I tell you, there's a reason why somebody buys a Lamborghini versus the Ferrari. There's a reason why the person buys the Ferrari versus the Lamborghini. Both of them cost a lot of money. There's a reason why somebody buys the Gulfstream versus the Learjet versus the Citation jet. You got to ask why. Is it the round windows or the square ones that you like best? And when you start asking questions, you'll get into the behavior of the individual and the why they make the choice they make. Does that make sense to us? So watch. Likability. Likability comes in many forms. Here, for most of us, first impressions. What's our first impression? Are we accepting? What's our first impression? Are we knowledgeable? Do we cast that aura that somebody can trust us? When we sit down with them, do they see that we have a wealth of knowledge that can help them? Can they trust you? In my industry, it all comes down to trust. I'm telling you right now, when I go and meet clients out of this region, I have to really watch how I regulate our company based on this region where we live. It's not a good appraisal to me. I've got to go into the Bay Area and Southern California and deal with people in those spaces because they give me a different input. And those people, as soon as I say, this is my retainer, they whip out the checkbook and write me a check. Here, they start going all down these schismatic roads. And the number one denominator about the people in this region versus those others, these people are fear-ridden. The other ones aren't. They have a problem and they look for a solution and somebody to solve it. Totally different mindset. Does that make sense? So know this about your marketplace. Does that make sense? Now watch. Similarity, people like because of the similarities or they're familiar with, right? Watch this. Likes on social media. Why do they like your picture over the other one? Familiarity. I look at the social media and I go, my goodness, what kind of brain would like that? Because sometimes I try to look at it from an intellectual standpoint, and I can't. This thing's off the rails. Does that make sense? Next, they give you compliments, right? They give you compliments. Compliments are no-cost factors. So people that like you or you like people, you give them compliments. Compliments are free. Compliments will get people to commit. It's real simple. Be honest, be integrous about it, right? Don't be a manipulator because everybody can smell one of those. Give bona fide, valued compliments. Next, how about this one? You simply trust the person. It's that inner connection. If I ask you, how many people in this room, how many people do you have an inner connection with of your clients or customers? When you met them, it's something like connected with you. They will buy your product even if there's a better product on the shelf because they're interconnected with you. You sold the dream to them. They got it. They drank the juice and they love it. Well, talk to a Chevy man. He'll buy a Chevy no matter what it looks like. Talk to a Ford man. He don't care what it looks like just as long as the engine transmission's strong. Preference. When people connect internally with you, they literally see the value in your product and you become their preference. Does that make sense? Now, let me end with this. Let me give you some insight. You are going to determine the outcome of your product and service. Your startup will fail or succeed based on the decisions that you make. Many times people say the market moved this, the market that. I believe you can be ahead of the market, ahead of the trend, and you can make the trend your friend. But for you to do that, you've got to rightfully appraise currently where you're at and the direction that you're going in. When you've done that, you can make necessary adjustments to lead the up and coming trend. Okay? Now, for the rest of us, let me give it this. And let's close right here. Luke 8:10. Look at the words of Jesus. The knowledge, that word knowledge means workable insight. I started by saying pseudo-spirituality. It is pseudo. It's not authentic. The reason being is you see this passage right here. The knowledge. Jesus is talking now to his disciples and not the multitude. He's saying, the workable insight I give to you. It's for you to know the secrets of this kingdom of God and what's been given to you. But to the others, the multitude, those on the outside, I speak in parables. I speak in metaphors. Do you see that? Then he goes on to say, seeing they do not see, hearing they may not understand. So for the person that does not have the ability in their internals to hear a thing, to see a thing, and have understanding and correlate and make that matrix happen, you get to be on the outside hearing parables all the time. But if we say we're on the inside with God, we have inside knowledge, we have secrets to the kingdom, keys to the kingdom, insight, revelation. God spoke to me. God appeared to me in a vision. God spoke to me through the Holy Spirit, and I have the gift of interpretation. All this stuff we put in a Christian bag. If it doesn't come with understanding that's workable, that is insightful, that produces a fruit that's usable, I've got to question it. Right? Because Jesus came to make you more effective and better than you humanly are. Now, I call that other learned behavior. Now unlearn it. Learn behavior. Unlearn it. Learn speech. Get rid of it. I have people that I talk with like this too. And as soon as I finish, well, let me tell you, Brother Goodman, thou wist knoweth. It's like the record's still stuck in the scratch. Some people, you can't unscratch their internal record. So we need to stop trying. Jesus didn't hang out with them for eternity. He moved on. Does that make sense? Right? So here he's saying, the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of God are given to you. It's knowledge and it's secret. That's why I don't believe everybody knows it, even though they claim they do. I doubt it. How do I know? Behavior. Boom. Shakalaka boom. Right? Ephesians 4:23. Can you take one more? I know these are heavy. I know they're hard. But oh, it feels so good to us that want to achieve. Watch this. And to be renewed. Notice the key words, and to be, meaning future sense, future outcome, future framework. If you want a future framework that's workable, that's bona fide, that achieves, that has great reward, bam, this is what you got to do. That's what he's saying. And look at the words. And to be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Means your software has got to learn something new. It's got to have a different download. And if we say we have a spiritual download, I'm going to ask, is it relevant in the community and does it work? Because I'm tired of hearing prophecies that are, thou knowest there's a palmeth treeth, an oasis. It's like, great, find that and buy me a ticket and I'll show up. Okay? That's not a prophecy. That's somebody schismatic in their brain. A prophecy from God gives you an insight into the near future or the future that will help your cause today. Does that make sense? And it usually isn't going to come wrapped in King James Version of language because you don't speak that way and heaven doesn't speak that way. It doesn't. Heaven does not speak King James Version of the Bible. Heaven speaks language we understand. Right? Watch. Verse 25. Therefore, having put away falsehood. That's the key for Christians. There comes a point in time you got to put away falsehood so you can have the authentic. But when you're mesmerized, entertained by, and you get that little giddy up in your step by the falsehood, God can't bring the authentic. Let me say that one more time. When you're mesmerized, when you're tickled, when you're entertained by the falsehood, God can't bring you the authentic. Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of us, it says you, but all of us included, let each one of us speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. You may think you're fooling people. The only person you're fooling is you. Remember, we're all interconnected. So if we put away falsehood and we become authentic, watch what happens. We raise the value of all of us. He say again, when we're authentic, we raise the value of all of us. You have to understand, ever since I can remember, I have been around people that claim to be prophetic, have prophetic insight, have revelation knowledge of the Bible and the kingdom of God. And by majority, they failed miserably at life, which the average person walking down or driving down Shaw Avenue right now that is far from God is winning at. How's that possible? How's that possible? Well, they serve the God of this world. Well, it's pretty bad if we're going to use that as the line of judgment, because he seems to be blessing them a lot better than you. So who are you really serving? The God Jehovah that I read about blesses you, coming in and going out. Says your head, meaning up above the common, the bar of measure, not below. So if we use these little cliches, we don't fare so well now, do we? You can never go wrong by being authentic. You may not always be accepted in every group by being authentic, but you'll always have honor from God and reward from heaven by being authentic. Does that make sense? All right, close your Bibles.